Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to our virtual investor forum. I'm your host, Dan Theok, Senior Vice President of Investment Banking. Today, we'll be taking a look at Express Catering Limited, and we're joined by Chairman and CEO Ian Dare. I'll introduce him formally in just a minute. We urge our viewers to stick around until the end of the program, as we'll be announcing winners of today's giveaways. If you're a fan of the content, subscribe to stay up to date with our uploads, and be sure to hit the bell to receive all of our notifications. We publish videos just like this, just about every week. Also, if you're looking to embark on your very first investment journey, take that first step with Mayberry Investments Limited. Follow us on social media today to get started. Okay, as we said, we're going to be featuring Express Catering Limited, and I just want to give you guys some background on the company. Express Catering Limited, otherwise known as ECL, was incorporated in 2001 and engages in the operation of branded sports bars. By securing international franchises and licenses, ECL has become the exclusive provider of food and beverage offerings at the St. Louis International Airport. It's a subsidiary of Margaritaville St. Lucia, Inc., and a member of the Margaritaville Group, and it's also listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Let me tell you a little bit about the chairman and CEO, Ian Dare. Ian Dare is the founder and current chairman and CEO of Margaritaville Caribbean Group Limited, the parent company to ECL. MCG is an industry-leading hospitality company with 2 publicly traded subsidiaries under its belt on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Under Ian's leadership, the company portfolio has expanded to include a diverse range of hospitality concepts in over 40 locations throughout the Caribbean. Ian has been a Justice of the Peace for the parish of St. James since 1996, and maintains active involvement in several community service organizations. In 2020, Jamaica's Governor General appointed Ian Dare to the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander Class for his contributions to Caribbean tourism and real estate development. Congratulations, Ian. And today he's here to tell us about Express Catering Limited. So once again, welcome, Ian. Thank you for joining us, sir. Always a pleasure to have you.
Dan, great to be back with you. I believe the last time I attended your forum, which was very dynamic, tourism was going through a very unstable time. And I remember saying that, we're going through a period of instability, but when we come back, we're going to come back on steroids. So I'm pleased to be back here today to talk about the period of being on steroids.
Absolutely. And we're going to look at the Q1 results for sure, Ian, which were fantastic. So if I could get that up on the screen, and we'll be back at you in a minute, Ian, with some Q&A. We want to talk about the financial highlights for the 3-month period ended August 31st, 2023. And it was a great period, as Ian said. First up, revenues were up by 30% to $6.4 million US. Gross profit followed suit, increasing by 36% to $4.3 million US. Total expenses increased by 46%, and as a result, the operating profit for the quarter was $1.4 million US, up 18% over the same period last year. Finance costs were reasonably held under control, with only a 3% increase to $536,000, and the net result is a 29% increase in the net profit to $843,000 US for the first quarter. A great result for Express. EPS of US 5 cents per share, about Jamaican $7.75. Total assets also up by 6% to $43.6 million US. Noteworthy, total equity up by 72% to $6.89 million US, while total liabilities were flat at $36.7 million. So great results there, good improvement in the balance sheet, particularly in the equity line, and also sales and profit. Amazing results. Current stock price, $4.60, which is a PE of about 16.74. So I would say it's about fair. The market's about 16 times for the junior market, but Express certainly has huge growth potentials coming. As when we get to the next slide, you'll see that the trailing earnings is only 27 cents because really they had 3 good quarters and one not so great quarter, but certainly it's good to see that the business is back to profitability, and we see tourism jumping substantially. In fact, passengers coming through the terminal at the Mayberry Airport, that was up 16% to 724,000, and indeed up over 18% to their benchmark 2019 year pre-COVID. So it means that revenues have returned to pre-COVID levels, and that's really impressive. So we expect bigger and better things as we go into the future, and for sure Ian will be talking a little bit more about that. Next slide, I want to show the quarterly performance results. This is the 7th consecutive quarter of profits, which is quite noteworthy, and the 3rd quarter in a row where the profits have been pretty impressive. So 840,000 in US dollars profit for this last quarter, which is substantially better than 4 quarters before. As you can see, I expect the trailing earnings to be much better after Q2 because they're going to drop what was a poor Q1 where they only made $130,000. So obviously the earnings are going to be improving substantially come next quarter on a 4-quarter trailing basis. And as you can see, this is the 7th quarter in a row of them making profit. So long gone are the days of the COVID experience where we saw losses in the business and some sporadic results. So last time that they made a loss, you'd have to go all the way back to November 2021. So it's good to see that the business is back and up and booming. And I do wish to note that when you also look at the improvement in revenues, if we go back to that first slide, guys, it's worth noting that, and it's in the accounts, that in December 2022, they opened up the Guitar Bar, and then also in July 2023, they've just opened up the Bob Marley offering. So again, we expect revenues to continue growing into the future because of the new offerings and as a result of the increase in tourism, generally speaking. And then on the last slide, we look at the movement in the stock price. So the stock price has sort of traded down over the last 2 years, now at $4.60, which is pretty much a low for the stock. The stock has been as high as $7 over the last 2 years, guys. And my expectation is that over the next 12 to 18 months, as we come out of this high interest rate regime, as interest rates start to trend back down, and I really expect this to start happening from December of this year, I'm going to predict that by Q1 of next year, we're going to see lots of corrections in stock prices in the market in general. So lots of great buys out there. We can get stocks relatively cheap, and certainly at any price below $5, I think Express Catering Limited is quite cheap because, again, as we talk about it later in the program, I'm sure you guys are going to agree with me. We're going to see more and more tourists coming to Jamaica. There are 5,000 hotel rooms under construction, all on the North Coast. Montego Bay has just expanded the food court. These guys are still expanding. Tell us about 2 more offerings to come in the next quarter. So more tourists coming, more traffic coming through the airport. The airport's even going to be expanding their runway. And so as we have more and more traffic coming to Jamaica, with Sangsters being sort of the hub of tourism for the North Coast, and these guys having the exclusive operations on the food court, we can only expect for revenues to be increasing for Express over the next 2 years. So this one's definitely a buy for me, guys. And I think it has great prospects. It's hard to bet against Jamaica and tourism and, by extension, ECL. So I encourage you guys to get yourself some ECL. Okay, Ian, we do have a few questions for you. So, and I do want to declare interest. I always like to declare conflicts. I always like to look at the top 10 shares, and I can see that Mayberry is a top 5 shareholder, albeit with only 2%, but it's a pretty impressive list of the top 10, which includes National Insurance Fund, who's, I think, third largest shareholder with an 11% stake. So it's good to see that this company has good support, including from the National Insurance Fund and from other renowned investors, including Mayberry Jamaican Equity. So congratulations, Ian, on a pretty good result, I would like to say. And we look forward to seeing bigger and better things for you. First question for me, Ian, is how far along is the anticipated Bob Marley experience, and what is the expected performance of this venture going forward?
So thank you, Dan. Bob Marley's One Love, which is our new Bob Marley hospitality space, Bob Marley's restaurant, opened up in July, middle of July. And since we've opened our doors, quite frankly, it is fully completed now. and it has been really well received by the traveling public, both Jamaicans and visitors alike. So we're very encouraged because the contribution is surpassing our expectations. So we anticipate that the contribution of this new facility will continue to grow from strength to strength, because as you can appreciate, the busier periods are yet to come.
Excellent. So even with this great result, you're saying the Bob Marley experience contribution, we still didn't have the full impact of it.
Absolutely, because it really was the middle of July, and the first quarter was really from the 1st of June. So tremendous.
Excellent. So bigger and better things to come. And are there any other brands that the company plans to add to its offering throughout the airport?
So we have there's two new concepts called Freshens and Bento. Freshens is a fresh type of product with yogurts and salads and that type of stuff. So a lot of healthy eating options coming out of that space, plus some nice yogurt desserts, etc. And Bento, which is a sushi concept. So we have never had sushi in the airport before, and so this will be our first sushi concept that will be launched. So those two should be great additions to the airport space. But in addition to that, we're also opening a new Starbucks store in the area, our biggest one yet, and also another revitalized grab and go concept that we have successfully launched in the past, but it'll be redone, called Vivo. So we think that with all of these additional spaces, it should really provide additional revenue opportunities for us.
Okay, sounds pretty exciting. And I as Jamaicans would say, I assume they soon come. They'll be here
Yeah,
next
yeah,
quarter.
they're
You'll have,
coming. Yeah, yeah.
excellent.
So by the first quarter of 24, those spaces should be fully rolled out.
Okay, so next 6 months. Very good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Starbucks. So similar to Starbucks, does ECL plan to introduce new international food and beverage chains across the island?
So we are in the phase of getting some concepts established in the arrivals area, which is pre-security at the airport.
Okay.
And coming out of that space, once that is finalized, and the experiences and the response of the customer, Jamaicans as a whole, is recognized, our intention is to roll out Auntie Annie's pretzel, which is a pretzel concept.
Nice,
Cinnabon,
nice.
which is a dessert type concept, and another chicken concept, which is a proprietary concept called Spice Kitchen and Bar. And so that will have both jerk and fried chicken options. So those three concepts are what we envision to roll out across Jamaica, offering new experiences, and both two concepts. Two of the three are international, and of course the third one is a proprietary experience. So we're very excited about the potential that represents, because of course it would mean that we're diversifying our revenue opportunities for ECL.
Excellent. Last time I came through Mayberry Airport, Ian, was in December. I'm traveling in 2 weeks, and I'm deliberately flying out of Montego Bay with a buddy. So will I see much difference between what I saw in December and what I'm going to see now?
I think you'll be very pleased and excited. We actually have customers that are telling us that they come to the airport early now, and they were speaking about Jamaicans 3-4 hours before their flight, so they can go and hang out in the space. So that's a very positive, commentary, and so that's the general feedback we get, that people are really excited about what we have put forward and what we have executed.
Well, I'm definitely going to get there 2 hours early so I can experience some of that food court as well, too. I was definitely impressed with what I saw in December, but things were still under construction, so I could only imagine what the finished product looks like. And it was very impressive to see how expansive it is. Really impressive. Okay, back to my questions. For the financial year 2022, we know ingredient prices were impacted by global logistics challenges and so on, which may have impacted your cost of sales to profit ratio. How does ECL plan to improve these in the future?
Well, that has been an ongoing challenge, as the cost of goods have been increasing over time. But we have managed to negotiate and forward purchase a lot of our ingredients now. And so that's still evolving, but we've come a long way, and we'll continue to that type of effort to only improve our cost of sales. So we see that only improving as time goes along, but certainly we have achieved a great deal by negotiating with our supply chain already. So
Good deal.
even better is to come.
And I'll confess, we constructed that question before I saw your Q1 results. And now that I've seen your Q1 results, your gross profit margin actually improved slightly over the prior year. So it looks like you guys definitely have that under control. So with ECL being tourism backed, how does the company intend to diversify its revenue streams, if you think you need to at all?
We're very excited about certainly what Jamaica is doing for its arrivals in tourism, and we're way ahead of 2019 now as a country, and we're way ahead of last year as a country, and what is being forecasted now is very, very positive. We potentially could have the best winter season in our history that's coming up. So this all translates to us as an entity that is the first and last experience, food and beverage wise, for all our visitors and anybody going through the airport. So we're opening up new concepts. We are tweaking our existing concepts. We are managing the movements of consumption based on plans that we have worked with consultants on out to the UK. And so definitely we're seeing that the spend per passenger continues to go up. Mm-hmm. The consumption patterns are definitely all in the right direction, pretty significantly improved. And so on top of that, as I mentioned to you before, we recognize that we want to diversify ECL's capacity to earn. And so that's why we are going out into the Jamaican marketplace to provide offerings and different experiences to diversify that revenue model.
Makes pretty good sense. But you guys have really been doing well in the airport itself. And again, is it like about 5,000 rooms, I gather, Ian, under construction? So, I mean, there's significant new offerings coming.
Right. So there are 5,000 rooms actually under construction now. But to be honest with you, the overall pipe of an outlook for rooms in Jamaica is about 20,000.
Wow.
But that's over an extended period. But certainly over the next year, 6 months or so, we see 38 to 4,000 rooms coming online. That alone represents 10 to 12 additional flights a day that's required. So that translates into a whole lot of additional revenue opportunities based on the sheer volume of people that will be added going through the airport.
Excellent. So there's a lot more potential for growth within the same space at the airport, essentially.
Absolutely.
And where do you see those numbers? Dream with me in 3 years' time. Do you think there's a capacity to grow your revenues by a further 50%? I mean, is that impossible?
Honestly, it's not impossible at all. I think we're going to realize, without being too specific, but I think we're going to realize some significant growth over the next 2 years. And because we are, using a strategic plan in ensuring that we provide different experiences in different spaces, and we have seen as a result of that tweaking a consistent increase in the spend per passenger, the consumption patterns. We think on top of the fact that we're adding these spaces, there's new experiences, tweaking existing spaces, and then the additional revenue of that could be realized from the additional passengers. It's very, very doable. So there are some big plans. I mean, the airport is really talking significant increases per year. They're talking about expanding additional terminals because of the demand that they're seeing in the space.
Excellent. And tell me, Ian, how many different offerings are you currently providing in the airport? And if you could just speak to, 2 or 3 of your favorites or best performing, and I'd like to hear, I'd like to appreciate that.
Well, I mean, we have roughly about 30 outlets now in the airport, but Wendy's, right, Domino's, all of these well-known American brands. Right. Margaritaville has been a staple and a foundation concept for us from the get-go. But we continue. We have Dairy Queen, we have DQ, we have some of our own grab and go concepts, Vivo. We have Tasty Patties, and all of these different experiences that we provide. Of course, Starbucks. Just in order to providing options for people, because to ensure we meet their demands, to meet what they would like to consume. So we're constantly evaluating what we're offering, and quite honestly, it is working, and it will continue to work for the foreseeable future. United States and Canada really represents in excess of 80% of our arrivals, of our tourist base, and we've seen that growing from strength to strength. And these are the type of experiences that we have recognized. And based on our strategic plans, we have seen where the consumption patterns it's well received with what we're offering.
Very good. And has the major renovation, that new section you're located to at the airport, has that been sort of materially completed?
Yeah, so it's referred to as a rotunda in the airport. And basically, what this has allowed to happen is that it has become the heart of the airport. So because every single passenger either has to go by the rotunda or through the rotunda, every single passenger touches that space. And so it's not only obviously a food court that we operate, because we operate right through all the terminals, but that rotunda food court space with Bob Marley's One Love, the Guitar Bar, etc., which is easily one of the, if I may say, one of the sexiest bars you've ever been to. It's really a nice bar to go and hang out and enjoy your time. What we're seeing is that the consumption patterns have just gone up as planned. So we expected that people would be attracted to the space, consume, then continue on to their gates, where they tend to still consume the offerings that are closer to their gates. So it actually has worked out very well.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear that. And give me one of your favorites. I'm going to be there in 2 weeks, man. What do I need to check out?
No, honestly, you're coming to Bob Marley's One Love. It's a must-see, a must-experience. And if you're going to be there and I'm around, I'll definitely be meeting there so we can have a drink together.
Absolutely. One way or the other, we're going to get together. I look forward to it. Okay, well, folks, we wanted to talk about our announcements and our giveaways. So I do want to pause for a second just to acknowledge that and announce our winners for today's giveaways, courtesy of ECL. And so I'd like to offer my congratulations to Lisha_Lish and to Gab Selexis. Forgive me, guys, I always struggle with these IG names, but I wanted to mention those giveaways. Okay, 2 more questions from me, Ian, and then I think we could wrap it up unless there are any other things that you want to appreciate. And again, folks, I hope you can appreciate the massive offering that ECL has in the rotunda at St. Louis International Airport. Over 30 different offerings, the vast majority of them being well-known international franchises, and they basically have the exclusive operation of the food and beverage services in that area. We've just heard that all passengers exiting Jamaica have to go through that food court area, which is an improvement over the past. And so not are we seeing more passengers coming through the terminal, 16% more this time. Not only are we seeing more passengers spending more money, spending approximately 12% in US dollar terms more because of the improved offering and service, but we're talking about a country that has the potential to substantially increase the amount of tourists that we bring to Jamaica, as evidenced by the new constructions, rooms, hotels, and the planned expansion of the airport runway itself to be able to accommodate, as Ian said, those more flights per day. So it's hard to bet against tourism. And if you're looking to invest in the Jamaica Stock Exchange, there only are about 4 companies that give you good exposure to tourism. ECL certainly being one of my favorites, and CPJ. I have a bias for the Mobay boys, so big up to Ian there and to Mark Hart and Tom Tyler. Can't forget them. But you also have Dolphin Cove as another tourism attraction. So there are very few stocks on the market that give you sort of direct exposure. And then, of course, Margaritaville Turks Limited, Ian, you're a second company on the stock market that also gives you exposure.
Which has done very well, by the way.
Which is bouncing back. We've got to bring you back in a couple of weeks to talk about Margarita Turks Limited as well, too. And we appreciate that cruise ship tourism has been one of the slower ones to make its comeback. But I guess you're implying that the comeback is coming back strong now. And so I look forward to seeing those results also for the first quarter and talking a little bit about that. So, Ian, one of the things I noticed, and I want to give the market a little expectation, is you do have about $9.5 million debt on your balance sheet. It looks to be relatively expensive debt at about 12%. Have you guys been thinking about any kind of refinancing or any kind of restructuring of your debt that the public might be able to benefit from, whether, accredited investors or the wider public? Is there a thought in your space about refinancing any of your debt?
Absolutely. So, Dan, I think, we're very appreciative that we're here in a post-COVID space. Obviously, a lot of that debt had to be taken on during a very difficult period when things had slowed down. So we are definitely planning to create an opportunity and a new type of vehicle or a vehicle to really take out some of that more expensive debt. So that's definitely planned, and that's something that we are looking forward to executing in a short order.
Excellent. So, folks, you heard it first here on the Mayberry Investor Forum. I presume Mayberry is going to be involved with helping these guys. We're always involved with helping the group in raising financing and creative forms of financing to allow them to be able to restructure their balance sheet, lower their cost of borrowing, raise capital for expansion, and so on. And we love working with you Mobay guys, and Ian and Mark are
and
two of my favorites.
Likewise.
Yeah, man. It's
Thank you, Dan.
Mutual respect. You guys are some of my favorites. I'm going to be down there for the next 3 days, by the way, in the Mobay fishing tournament. So Thursday or Friday, we should try to get together. A lot of fun.
Look forward to it. Definitely.
So I hope you guys appreciate why Express Catering Limited is one of my favorites. Gives you good tourism exposure. It's a company that's growing from strength to strength with 30% growth in Q1 alone, and great future growth to come on the back of the expansion that we're seeing in the tourism sector by virtue of more hotels being added, the Montego Bay planning to expand. Ian's told us about their plans to start to take some of those international franchises that they manage and to expand them throughout the island. I personally am looking forward to the Annie's pretzels. It's one of my favorites for sure. I'll be stopping and getting some at Montego Bay. So, honey, no matter what time I leave home, I'm not eating breakfast. I'm going to have my breakfast at the airport for sure. So I look forward to it. Hopefully I get to see you, Ian. Thanks again for coming on the program. It was such a great pleasure to have you.
Great to be back, Dan. I'm looking forward to the future. We're very bullish about what's coming. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. And that's it for today's discussion, folks. I'd like to thank our viewers, as usual, for tuning in. We greatly appreciate your support. And big thanks, as always, to Ian and the team for joining us. It's always great to have you guys on the program. Sorry we didn't have Gary and Chris with us today, but I think we did a good job without them. Give us a thumbs up if you like the program, guys. To our viewers, be sure to look out for updates on our Virtual Investor Forum in weeks to come. Remember to follow us on social media. We share all things forum related on our official social media pages. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Mayberry Investments Limited. And remember, wise investors, keep safe, and slow and steady wins the race. Goodbye.